Hi again, Doc Wild here with the last little bit about PPE. Going to talk to you about mask wear. I know there's a lot that's been coming down recently, DoD guidance, CDC guidance on how everybody's supposed to be wearing masks when you're out in public or when you're within 6 foot of somebody else. The main purpose of this is really to protect other people from you. The mask is not necessarily protecting you from coronavirus that's in the air. It does offer some protection, but that's not its goal. The goal is for you to be covering your face so that you're not spreading coronavirus to other people. Some asymptomatic spreaders, people showing before they show symptoms, may be spreading a little bit of virus for about 2 days. We know that, so that's why it's important that we do wear masks when we're out in public or close proximity with people, especially if we're in places where there are high risk or vulnerable populations. So let's talk about correct mask wear though, because again, PPE needs to be worn responsibly, and you need to think about spreading virus and how you are now at risk yourself if you're putting something on and off your face. So I've got a couple of different masks here for us to look at. The one that a lot of people are familiar with, of course, is your surgical mask. But before we do all of this, I need you to look at the table and understand that this is a sterile surface. This is a sterile surface that has come out of a sealed container from the hospital clinic, and this is a mask that has come out of a sealed container as well. So this is a sterile surface, and that's what you've always got to be starting with, right? You've got to clean down a surface before you're putting anything on it. And again, hands. Clean hands are the most important thing every time with SARS-CoV-2. This hand sanitizer has 65% alcohol, and that's important. It's also important that you are using an ample amount, right? I know there's a shortage of hand sanitizer, but it's very important that you're using the right amount, not too little, and making sure that you get between your fingers and cleaning your hands very well, getting every surface before you touch anything else. Especially important for mask wear, right? Because if my hands have touched multiple different surfaces and I have SARS-CoV-2 virus, COVID-19 virus on my hands, and now I touch a mask that I'm gonna put on my face, that's a big deal, right? So you do need to make sure that A, your mask is on a clean surface, and B, your hands are clean, and try not to touch it too much by the inside or the outside. Try to hold it in an area that is not going to be immediately over your mouth or nose, right? With regard to the surgical masks, these are in shortage globally, which is why we're encouraging people to use cloth masks, right? These are designed for single use for hospital workers. They are made out of a paper-like fabric, not a fabric, and they are designed for single use. We are reusing them in hospitals with very, very strict criteria on how we do that. But these are not the masks that we're recommending for everybody to be wearing on a daily basis. I am showing you how to use these though, because I know that people do have them out there, and it's important that you understand how to use all of these masks. There are two sides. One is blue, one is white. Every mask that you have, you should be able to tell which is the inside and which is the outside. Why is that? Well, because the outside is exposed to the environment. If you are, for example, taking your mask off to eat, you should be putting it on a clean surface, but you are going to make sure that you maintain inside and outside, because the inside, if you are shedding virus, will be on the inside of your mask, and if you put it down on something, you're just spreading that around, right? And vice versa. If you're in an environment where there's virus in the air, you've got it on the outside of this mask now, and if you turn it around, well, you're just breathing through this fabric, the virus that's already on the mask. So try not to touch it too much. Make sure that it is clean and you know which side is which. And to put them on, you're going to try to hold it usually by the ear pieces, right? And try not to touch the mask as much as possible. So you put it over your face, you hook it around one ear, and then you hook it around the other ear, and then you don't touch it again. This is how you should wear your mask. You shouldn't keep touching it. Remember that some studies show that wearing a mask actually increases the amount of time that you touch your face, because you're adjusting it all of the time. You're messing with it and etc. So make sure once you've put it on, it fits you well and you're not messing with it, you're not changing it, you're not touching your face. To take it off, clean your hands before you touch your face. Every time. If you do nothing else, this is the most important thing that you can do, right? And when you take the mask off, you're going to do it the same way. You're going to take it by the earpiece, by the earpiece. And if you're taking it off to drink or eat, for example, you are going to make sure that you're putting it on a clean surface with clean hands and still not trying to touch it too much. Okay? So that is the surgical mask. It is exactly the same mechanism as the handmade masks for most of them. If you're tying a mask, when you put it on your face, you're going to tie the top part first and then the bottom part. Again, always holding it by the straps or the edges as much as possible. These can be reused because you can wash these. So long as you've got a double layer of fabric, and the CDC websites as well as the DoD guidance has sent out all kinds of information on how to make these. It's important that you do have a double layer of fabric though. And again, you need to have the straps on the side, always handle the mask by the straps on the side. The one other mask variant that I would like to talk to you about, and this is what a lot of our military personnel are wearing, are the Gators, right? This is something that is not as sterile as any of these masks that you see on the table, as masks that we put on and off, because these, for example, are staying around our throat. So that's risky. I would say be careful with that, right? You do need to remember that this is now staying on your body, and if you have it inside out, for example, and you're exposed to stuff, you're then going to be putting it on your face. So that's important to remember. They are still meant to be protecting other people from you. So that's the most important thing for you to remember here when you're wearing these kind of face coverings, is that really the goal is to kind of prevent everybody from shedding it, right? So if you're wearing this over your face, it's to prevent somebody else from getting the virus from you. So what's important with that is making sure that you've got at least a double layer. And for a lot of these, they don't. So if you're not wearing some of the thicker grade ones, make sure that you are doubling this over. And that's how you would want to maintain it, and make sure that you try to keep that side in. Again, I had cleaned my hands before you touch this, and that's the same thing. Before you touch anything to put a mask on, you're going to make sure your hands are clean. Good amount of hand sanitizer. And then touch it from the sides. Try not to do too much finger touching to the front of the mask as much as possible. And then you're going to fold that up over your face. Okay? Again, try not to touch the mask as much as possible, but make sure that you've got a good seal. Now, these are great for that, because a lot of these masks, you've got openings on the side and etc. These give you a better seal, so that's definitely one of their advantages. If you're making sure that you've got a double layer, they do actually help with protection the whole way around, right? So that's one of the better things with these kind of masks. I'm going to show you one last thing, and that is how to put glasses on. You would usually put eye protection on after you've got a mask, and there's only certain times that you're going to need eye protection. That would be, for example, if you're cleaning a surface that might have high splash. Medical workers obviously will wear it fairly frequently because we are dealing with splash zones and procedures that increase our risk. So you will see people wearing face shields and eyeglasses in medical facilities. But for the most part, you would be wearing them if you were cleaning areas where there was a risk of high splash zone or something along those lines, right? So again, hands clean. These are sterile. Again, on a sterile surface, as you can see. Touching the outside the same as the mask. You always want to touch the outsides, and then you just go ahead and put your eye protection on. So this would be full PPE, for example, to clean an area, or if you were at any risk of sort of splash in your eyes. But otherwise, the eye protection is really reserved mostly for medical personnel or for people who are cleaning, food personnel, things that would be splashing in eyes and etc. The same as when you're removing, clean those hands from the side. Try not to touch your face, the front of your face, as much as possible. Clean your hands. And then you can go ahead and remove your mask. Trying, again, not to touch the front as much as possible. So those are the three big take-home mask types that we have. Remember, like I said, the surgical mask is really reserved for medical providers, but they are out there, so it's important you know how to use them correctly. The homemade masks are great in that they can be washed and you can reuse them. So that's a very good use of resources. Especially seems there's an international shortage of medical supplies like this. And these masks, like I said, be careful with your use of them. They're very appropriate to stop you spreading the virus, but you do have to just make sure that you're cognizant of the fact that if you're putting them around your neck, that you're watching that they're staying in a way that the inside is to the inside and you're only touching it with clean hands as much as possible. My recommendation for these would be, though, if you are wearing them, keep them on and don't be taking them off too much. So that's pretty much it from me. I hope that answers some questions, and we'll keep educating and talking about the changing guidelines, because I know things change rapidly with this virus. But together we can definitely stop the spread. Together we are stopping the spread. And every time you put your mask on, think about how we're flattening that curve, and flattening that curve is saving lives. And that's what this is all about. So keep doing what you're doing, and I'll be here every step of the way with you. Thank you.